Make welcome from Nokia, a great friend and partner of the Tizeti family, Eniola Campbell, on his presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. When Kendall called me, he asked me to come up and talk about 5G. You just saw the demo. What I'm going to do in the interest of time is I'm actually going to speed through a number of slides. We've already talked about what 5G can provide, but one of the things I wanted to point out is during the pandemic, one of the main things that happened was the Nigeria economy suffered. I think we all realize that. But one of the things I want to point out is one of the key areas that continued to grow during the pandemic was telecom. And this slide really illustrates the growth that we're seeing in Nigeria with telecoms based on the pandemic, based on the need for bandwidth at home. Why is that important? Because as we talk about 5G and we talk about things that Tizeti is doing, these are things that will impact our country moving forward. Now, you cannot talk about 5G without talking about the Industrial Revolution. So what is the Industrial Revolution? It is the phases of technology that we've been seeing throughout the last couple of centuries. It started with the first Industrial Revolution. It moved to the second. We're currently in the third. What does that mean? We're using now IT and technology to improve the amount of technology, the amount of productivity that we're seeing around the world. Where we are headed and what 5G allows us is to begin to move into the fourth Industrial Revolution. And this is something that is going to change our lives, our children's lives moving forward. We're just now beginning to get on the cusp of it. So, telecom today, what is it around the world? It is multiple connections. It has become an essential part of our lives. So just like we breathe, we eat, we have water. If you ask our children, they will die without their cell phones. It's where we sit today. However, if you look at the amount of connections that are hitting the network every given day, it is over 7 trillion connections a day, okay? And it's constantly growing. If you look at the number of new applications, you've heard several of the CEOs talk about that today. Over 3,000 new applications hit the internet every day. This is driving the need for bandwidth. It's driving the need for innovation. It's driving the need to have faster and faster connections across the network. So, what is 5G? What is 5G? 5G is a cellular technology. What it provides is from the cell towers to your phones a faster connection. It has taken advantage of the progress that we've seen of 1, 2, 3G, 4G, and it's going to enable even faster connections. So, as Kendall politely pointed out, if 2G and 3G, which is where a lot of the connections in Nigeria are today, is walking, and 4G is leaping a hurdle, 5G is getting on a rocket ship and taking off. That is what 5G is, guys. I want to speak to you real quickly and in 5 minutes or less try and make you an expert in 5G. When people say 5G, you're talking about 3 major things. You're talking about enhanced mobile broadband. That means faster connections to you. You're also talking about ultra reliability. What you're talking about is no more drop calls. All of us here in Nigeria experience over and over again the need to redial our calls. Ultra broadband and 5G is going to allow those things not to happen. As the MC rightly said, if someone's doing surgery somewhere across the world, the last thing you need is that thing to buffer while he's sitting there talking to a remote device to do surgery. 5G is going to make sure those things don't happen. And the last thing is to continue to support the higher and higher connections, these billions of connections that are going to continue to hit the internet. Now, 5G is more than just a one spectrum solution, because what's happening is depending on how much coverage you want to have or how much capacity you want to have, you're going to use different spectrums. So you'll talk about mid-band, you'll hear them talk about low-band, and you'll hear them talk about high-band spectrum. We'll talk a little bit later about what's going on in Nigeria, where we're focused right now on the 3.5 gigahertz, which is a mid-band technology. But depending on the spectrum that's selected, you have existing things like 2G and 3G on it today. So you have to go in and you have to determine how far you want to spread out and how much capacity you have, and it's a trade-off. A lower band, 700 megahertz, will mean that you'll go farther, but you won't get as much bandwidth through. A higher band, let's say 3.5, 15, 20 gigahertz when you get a lot of bandwidth through, but it'll fall down. So different operators will have to determine the spectrum they want to use based on the things they want to do, okay? Now, the last thing you'll hear when people talk about 5G is what they call NSA or SA. And what that means is non-standalone or standalone. All of the cellular connections today hook up to a signaling backbone. That signaling backbone today is a 4G signaling backbone. For the 5G that will initially be rolled out, they're going to use a non-standalone. When the network and the signaling platform gets built out, which will probably be 5 years from now, depending on the operator and the amount of capital he wants to spend, that will be called a standalone 5G. Most of the 5G, if not all the 5G that's deployed around the world, and they're deployed today in North America and other places, are non-standalone. When standalone occurs, it will increase that amount of bandwidth even above what you saw already, about 20% more. So that's just a real quick 5 minutes or less 5G, okay? Now, where does 5G sit today? 5G sits today in what they call Release 6. So what happened is a number of standard bodies have come up with various releases so 5G can be coordinated. Because 5G as a technology is going to have implications not only for the telecom network, but the enterprise network and a number of industrial networks. So it's coordinated. Right now, Release 16 is what's being deployed around the world, and that is going to enable the enhanced broadband as well as the ultra reliability. And then you'll see here in 2017, in Release 17, which is going to be 2021, some increased capacity and on. So it's a very coordinated technology that is being rolled out. Now, last but not least, I want to talk to you about some of the things that have happened in Nigeria that's been talked about by Kendall. 5G is now being licensed, so the spectrum from the NCC is going to have an auction by the end of this year. They're looking at the 3.5 gigahertz, and they're looking out giving blocks of 100 megahertz each to, I think, in 5 licenses. The goal of Nigeria is to begin to implement 5G and have it in the urban areas by 2025. That means a lot of work is going to happen in a short amount of time. And I think Tizeti is going to be on the forefront of a lot of these things. So look forward to the things that are happening, okay? Like I said before, we're in the early cycles of 5G, but more to come. And like I said, the key thing of 5G is that you also have to have the devices. It's an ecosystem. It's one thing to build out a wireless network, but if you don't have the devices, the end devices, to help you with that, you're going to be stuck. But what's happened, as you've seen, is a rapid progression of 5G devices. So as you look today, as 5G is beginning to mature, there are over 703 devices in the network. About half those devices are cell phones. But what you're seeing, interestingly enough, with 5G, some of those devices are other things like laptops, or like Tizeti has with the fixed wireless CPE, or even other various forms. Like I said, cars are looking to implement some of the 5G technology. Industrial companies are looking to implement 5G for factories. So 5G is going to be used throughout various industries. The medical industry is looking to make a lot of their devices 5G enabled. So this whole ecosystem of 5G is growing extremely fast. Now, for us, some of the devices that are starting to hit the market today that we can buy, the iPhone 12 is 5G enabled. Some of the Samsung devices that have recently come out, like the S21, is 5G enabled. So these devices, what they mean is when the spectrum is available, they can take advantage of using that 5G spectrum, and more devices are coming online daily. Okay? Now, 5G is great, but if you're Tizeti or if you're anyone in this room, how do you make money on 5G? Obviously, one of the first ways to do it is to offer faster broadband connections, and there's several different operators around the world that are doing it. They either do it as an upgrade to their existing plans, they do it as an add-on, or they can do it as ad hoc, okay? Another thing, and I think this fits more squarely in line with what Tizeti is looking to do, is as a fixed wireless solution. So today, if you're going to get broadband in Nigeria, you probably have one or two options. You either have a fiber-based, fiber to the home, or you have a wireless. A lot of times the wireless connections may not be able to provide as fast as connection as a fiber to the home. However, with 5G, those things change. You now have the wireless carriers being able to provide the same amount, if not more bandwidth, on a wireless connection to people's homes. Even for fiber-based providers, they will be looking to add more 5G wireless as their solution to hit areas that it doesn't make sense to deploy fiber. Okay? Last but not least, I want you guys to open your minds about things beyond just broadband or even wireless connection. Some of these things have already been talked about slightly. But what 5G is going to enable, particularly with this ultra-reliable solution, are things like, obviously, cloud gaming, but think of immersive technology. So these are things like being able to go somewhere, being able to do surgery remotely with, let's say, VR glasses, and being able for that doctor to move his hand, and then a robotic device is doing that same surgery on a patient miles away. So obviously, one of the hardest things in the healthcare today is getting surgeries done, having the availability of doctors. 5G enables one doctor to do multiple surgeries at the same time. Okay? Mixed reality. Yes, you guys want to clap? Yes. Mixed reality. Think of a combination of going to an activity, going to a sporting event, and being able to see that event not only from your seat, but being able to see it from the eyes of one of the players, because you now have 5G-enabled technology to allow you to do those things. Connected cars. Being able to get in your car now, challenging here in Lagos now, but in the future, being able to get into your cars and having those cars drive themselves, or at least assist you in the driving because of the real-time connections, being able to monitor what is going on, okay? So it's more than just a wireless connection. We're talking about changing the lives as we know it today. So thank you once again, and I appreciate the time to talk. Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes.
All right, thank you very much for that, Eniola Campbell. He's the country senior officer, head of sales at Nokia. Once again, a round of applause to him, ladies and gentlemen. Hello to those of you on YouTube. Great to have you here on Zoom as well. Over 300 or so people on the Zoom platform. Facebook, YouTube as well. Thank you so much for joining us. You have missed quite a lot if you are just joining us, but not to worry. You'll be able to catch up and watch this live transmission again. And of course, you can head over to wifi.com to get more information. Do ensure you follow them on Instagram at tizeti.network. There are a lot of offers that will be unveiled during the course of the next couple of weeks. You've heard about 5G, you've heard about the future of the digital, which is here, the use of the Wi-Fi call, the IVR, and I think a gentleman or two just won a lifetime supply of Wi-Fi at this particular